Well, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jason Levine, and thank you so much for joining me today on the Friday Masterclass, where today we are talking about multicam editing in Premiere Pro CC 2022. And this is something we haven't revisited on the stream in quite some time. We're going to take a look at it from a couple of different angles, right? So just because you have a bunch of footage doesn't mean you can't multicam it, even if it wasn't sort of created or meant to be in sync. And think about a lot of the commercials and things you see, you know, where they might just be cutting between random clips of things and kind of narrating and telling a story. This is a great way to use multicam to just very easily throw everything in a timeline and then cut between different shots against a voiceover. This is a great technique. And then, of course, if you're actually doing a multicam shoot where you've got multiple cameras meant to be synchronized together to cut between a single scene, I'm going to show you that as well using some archive content that I've actually evidently haven't taken a look at in about 11 years. So always dipping into the archives for that kind of stuff. As always, we're coming to you live across a series of different networks. If you've got any live questions, this is the chat that I've got in front of my face. So this is where you want to be if you want to ask me a question. Now, I've also got the other chats for Twitter and my YouTube and etc. here as well. I just don't always see those in real time right away. So you let me know. Okay. So in any case, let's see. We've got Pete and Erland and Divam and PJG, Gareth, Laura, Feroja, Umacorn, Bliss, and Wade, Mostafa, and Tim, and Paloma, and Rob, and Annika, and Robert, Reverb Mike, Jason Rose, Laura Staneva. Very nice to see you all. Thank you for joining. Okay, good to see it's okay now, Erland and Matt. How are you? Okay, so let's go right into Premiere Pro, shall we? Waste no more time. Always doing so much narrating here. I was going to say something. What was I going to say? Oh, I was just going to tell you a random story, just Friday story. Since this is an intimate conversation, a couple days ago, I banged my left foot. I was walking in my closet in my bedroom, and I walked out of the closet, and I slammed my left pinky toe. I mean, I saw stars for a good 30 seconds. Needless to say, I thought I sort of broke my toe. Not that there's really much you can do. It was kind of, if this were my foot and this were the pinky, it was like bending the wrong way. So I kind of bent it back, and it's okay now. It's healing, but man, my foot is like black and blue in the truest sense of the word. It is scary, and today it hurts. That's got nothing to do with anything. Just thought I'd share a little bit of that with you. The joys of aging. My left foot. Give that man an Oscar. Oh my God. Bang, bang, Jason Silverhammer. Yeah. Yeah, clever. That's pain. Thank you, Paloma. It still hurts. Let me tell you. It's not fun. Okay. So thank you. Thank you for all the comments there. All right. So what I wanted to start with was creating a multicam sequence, again, in the effort to cut between B-roll shots, all right? And realistically, you could think of this, or the reason for doing something like this, think about like most of the commercials that you see. I just happened to catch one for, you know, whatever, a medication or something, right? Whether it's heart medication, foot medication, some kind of medication, right? And there's always scenes of like, you know, people, you know, getting together, having a barbecue, you know, these commercials for whatever it is, right? It's all these like random scenes of people. It's a lot for like psoriasis and things. And they're at a barbecue, and then they're hang gliding, and then they're drinking champagne, and then they're on a boat, and then they're in a field. You know, when you're cutting these against a voiceover, there's no sync, right? There's nothing that they're trying to, maybe there's a moment where they say something and they want to highlight a specific shot or scene, but there's no synchronization in terms of these things weren't captured at the same time with multiple cameras. They're all different shots, and you're just cutting between them. So typically you might put a bunch of these shots in a timeline like we see here. So I grabbed, this is all Adobe stock content down here. and I threw everything in the timeline. And yes, I could start to go through and say, all right, I want 10 seconds of, whatever this is. And then I would like cut the shot and then, whatever, and start to JKL my way through all of this and leave holes. And that's one way to edit it. And I could do this against a voiceover, or I could do the voiceover live, recording it live, whatever. However, if I am in fact cutting multiple things against a voiceover, against a pre-recorded audio track, there's an easier way to do that, and you can use Multicam to do that. And this is something which it's funny, I don't always do myself. I sometimes forget that this is just a more efficient way. So let's talk about what I mean if you're already confused. I'm mildly so, and I live here. Okay, so one thing to do before you start cutting, now by the way, I'm using nine shots here. So depending upon the kind of system you're on, first and foremost, and this is a question we get asked all the time, how many cameras can you have in your multicam sequence? Years ago, probably one of the first times I did not first, but fifth time I did a box tutorial on multicam. At one point we did have some limitations. I don't even know what the limitations are, if there are any. I'm sure there are. Maybe it's 99 cameras or something. You could throw a lot in there. Now, of course, the success in cutting multiple cameras real time is going to be largely dependent on the system you're on and how you're treating the footage. So in the case of this stuff, you can see I'm actually looking at all the content here. We've got our freeform view in case anybody was wondering, how does he have clips stacked on top of one another in different sizes? This is freeform, so we've shown this many times on various streams. Down at the bottom. Whoops, I just went. You dope. Down at the bottom of the screen here, I was trying to zoom in so you can see that. Can I get to it? There it is. You have these three buttons here. You have your icon view, you have your list view, your icon view, and then your freeform view, which is this one right here. Okay, this just allows you to stack things freely. While doing that, you can also, I don't know if this is coming on, my camera's in the way again. You can change the clip size. All right, so you see that there. You can also align things to a grid. You can reset things to a particular grid. You can also create basically snapshots of these freeform layouts and recall them. A lot of cool things you can do in freeform. We'll talk about changing poster frames as well in just a moment. This is a new feature. But this is all mixed media. So if you take a look, I'm going to go into list view for just a second here. And let's go to some of the attributes of this stuff. So again, Adobe Stock, got a combo here of traditional 1080p and then some 4K/UHD content. Again, just kind of a mix here. Some of these files are ProRes files, some of them are MP4, some I think might be MXF. So a wide array of formats, an array of different frame sizes and aspect ratios, as well as, I'm probably sure, yes, an array of frame rates, all right? 23976, 30, 2997, you get the idea. So one thing which you might consider doing, and I already did this, I'm just gonna show you the process again here, and we'll do it in real time in a couple of minutes, is to create proxies from this content before you begin your multicam process. And the reason for that, and the reason to use a proxy, and those who are unfamiliar, a proxy is essentially a lower resolution or smaller format version of your existing content, usually in a format that performs well for cutting and editing in real time, i.e. not MP4 or H.264 based content. Not an ideal format for editing, let alone multicam cutting, because it's just a heavy process on your system. So creating proxies, smaller, lighter weight versions, so that you can cut more easily is really a good practice to get into. And the reason for doing it, one, it's not gonna change the way you edit. It's a single button to click between the proxy and the native media, and your experience in Premiere is just gonna be better. So this is the first thing I recommend. So you don't have to know anything about proxies to do this. Here's what you do. Import your content. You can see I've got all of my Adobe stock footage here. Looks like I only neglected to license one piece, so we can license that later. Right click here. Now I've already done it on these, but just to show you, and we can go to, whoops, again, with the windows in my way. create proxies, okay? All right. And it pulls up this dialog here. And then you've got a couple of choices. So MXF OP1A, if you don't know what that is, I'm just going to give you a quick tip here. Just don't choose that. A little confusing for the uninitiated. This is a pro broadcast format, popular format. It's a great format. Use it. But, you know, again, there's only one preset in there for that. That's odd. Okay. Then we have H.264. You might say, well, why do you have H.264 as a format if you just said don't use that for editing? Good question. I wouldn't use these. Now, low resolution H.264 can actually perform pretty well. And in recent updates to Premiere, we've also done a lot, particularly on the Windows side, to accelerate the decoding of H.264 and even H.265 media, HEVC. So it's better than it used to be. But across the board, it's just H.264 was not really a codec that was meant to be used for editing and production. It's a delivery format, right? So that wouldn't be my recommendation. What would my recommendation be, you ask? QuickTime. And specifically, we've got, again, options here. So you've got Zcam. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to worry about that. And then we have ProRes, low, medium, and high. This is what I would recommend you use. Now, again, there are no absolutes. Use what you want. We've also got Cineform. Beautiful. Love Cineform. You know, whether you use ProRes HQ 422 HQ or whatnot, or Cineform, you can't go wrong. You'll also notice there's DNxHR, the Avid-based codecs, using the QuickTime wrapper here as well. If you've just got standard HD, 4K, 6K, 8K media that you just want to be a little bit lighter and a little bit less of a strain on your system, I want to say go with your ProRes low-res proxy. You can audition and see what works best and visually what is appealing to your eye for cutting. In general, low-res ProRes does not mean it's just going to look like a big block of mess of pixels. It's just a little smaller, a little lighter, and it's going to perform better on your system. So you choose that preset. Typically, in terms of destination, I use the default here. Place it next to the original media in a proxy folder. Click OK. And when you do that, what happens is it's going to launch Media Coder in the background, and it's going to start creating proxies for all of that original content. Okay, and it's just going to do this in the background. Now, what's brilliant about this, and I've shown this and talked about it on stream, is that it'll create proxies for all of your media as you continue to work. You don't have to do anything. What? Really? Well, you have to do one thing. Liar! No, you have to do one thing. And that one thing is you just have to enable using the proxies. Okay? How do we do that? Well, it's this button right here, toggle proxies. Now, if you don't see that little button, of course, also the button next to it, which we're going to focus on, toggle multicam view, is you need to add these buttons to your program monitor. And you do that with this plus button, which will bring us into the button editor. So when we open this up, there's your multicam button. And again, you just click and drag these down into the button bar. Is that what it's called? Sure, that's what I'm calling it. Toggle proxies, drag it down there. There's also this gang source and program. This is, I think, a somewhat new feature. You may notice there's a whole bunch of buttons in here. If you haven't gone in here in a while, this one's really great, Snap and Program Monitor. So this is a function inside of the wrench menu right over here as well, if you like to turn on snapping when you're doing graphics and lower thirds, whatnot. Also showing guides. I'm going to drag that down here. I want that. I want that on. Show rulers. I mean, already I feel like I have too many buttons in here now, but okay, that's fine. All right. Guides. Love that. Did I put the rulers in here? I didn't do it. Okay. I just like being able to turn the guides on. By the way, you can also just come up here. Where are your guides? Oh, when you have your guides and turn them on up here. Okay. So we have the proxies already created. So once you do that, all you need to do to turn the proxy on is to enable this button. And when it is blue, it is on. Now, visually, what does that do to your footage? Well, I'm going to go full screen here. Well, not full screen because I need to be able to toggle it. we'll go into the maximized view here. All right. So this is currently with the proxy on. All right. So note, even on stream here, that this is, of course, the one piece of footage I didn't license. It's looking a little pixelated, right? Yeah, it's a low-res version of some 4K content. Let's turn the proxy off. Okay. Now, again, I'm zooming in on stream, but you can see it's smoother. So visually, it's not a huge difference. It's a little softer, right? This is the proxy version. Clearly softer. Let's go to the native version. Clearly less soft. Okay, so you're seeing the full res version here. Okay. But visually, that's going to be fine. That's going to be simple. I'm okay looking at that. I'm going to be able to cut against that. Some of the other things you can do, you may have noticed when I was in the Create Proxy dialog. Now, by the way, we have previous streams where I show how to make proxy presets and ingest presets. You can also do a thing, which I will often do, which most editors will often do, which is to watermark your proxies so that you know what you're working on. Because it's very easy to like start to cut something. You're going, why does the playback suck? It's not real time. It's and it's because you're trying to play back 9 tracks of 4K natively on a 10-year-old Mac or PC, and you forgot to toggle the proxies on. So if you've got a watermark, you always know what you're looking at. Honestly, you know, with a lot of this footage, you almost can't tell, right? Until you sort of zoom in and really pay attention. So that's just a practice if you like doing that sort of thing. All right. So now that we've got everything in proxy mode, and I have all my footage in the timeline here, I'm going to select everything. All right. And I'm going to right click, control click, and go up to nest. All right. And this is going to take all of those 9 tracks right there and compile them into a nested version. All right. Now, by the way, if you want, and I will often do this, come over here to my coastal wetlands bird flock flying sequence. I will sometimes just duplicate this so I can get back to my original. All right. You don't have to do that. I like to do that. And we're going to call this Multicam for VO. All right. And click OK. And when I do that, what you will now see is that we have everything now compiled into this one track. All right. And you might go, okay, cool. So now it's ready for multicam. Not quite yet. Right click on the nested clip. And note now that you have multi-camera enable. So you simply need to enable the multi-camera cutting functionality. Once you do that, okay, nothing really changes here. Now let's enable or toggle the multi-camera view. All right. And as you'd expect, now what you are seeing is we have all 9 cameras, effectively all 9 clips on the left-hand side. So this is our, and by the way, these correspond to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I thought we had, I thought there was something where we displayed the camera numbers. Did we not do that? I thought we did that. Is that an option somewhere in here? No. Edit cameras, no. Adjust multi-camera play, no. Show multi-camera preview, multi-camera selection, top down. Audio files, video. Okay, maybe not. Oh, maybe it's in the overlay settings? Ah, yes. Okay, so you can have overlays on. Let's see. There you go. So I turned on, by the way, that was a little, if you missed that, down at the bottom here, we have various overlay settings. Okay, I just enabled whatever my last default was set to. And all that does is it just gives me access to the shortcuts here for each of the cameras. All right, just a nice little kind of best practice. And then this is kind of showing you actively what's happening, time code, etc. If you want that on, you don't have to leave that on. Okay, so now that you've got this here, let's go ahead and wind this back. By the way, note as I'm scrubbing through it, seems to be performing pretty nicely. That little glitchy thing is at the beginning there. Let's go back to our semi-full screen here. Now, I want to point out that I'm also in 1/4 res. All right, so first let's just take a look here. I'm just gonna play. I'm not gonna do anything yet and see how everything is performing. So I'm just gonna hit play. And as we look at all the cameras on the left here, everything seems to be moving pretty nicely in real time, right? I mean, it's a little hard to tell maybe on stream, but this movement doesn't look delayed or anything. So what that's telling me is maybe I can actually go up to like half res or maybe full res, because again, I'm using those low res proxies. All right, so here's half res. Everything's still working. Birds look very much in time. Full res. All right, we're dropping some frames. I can see that here. Okay, so again, 9 clips of mixed HD, etc. Maybe I'm not getting full res as I'm cutting, but I am getting it at half res. You can't see it. Where's the green? There it is. Above my head. All right. So now that I know that, now I can cut this. Let me look at some questions here. Machiavellian, you are the MVP in these tutorials. Thank you so much. Remy Duff, hello from France. Shankar, it is 11:50 a.m. in the desert. Citrus Trail says, I got 99 cameras, but a Polaroid ain't one. Nice. Shankar, I finished scripting part 6 in Audition. Very cool. All right. Eric, what's up? Okay. Speed-wise. Reaver Mike, I can't tell the diff from quarter and full. Yeah, you're probably not. So that's the thing, right? You're probably not going to see that necessarily on screen here. It's more about in terms of just playback performance if we're dropping frames. And that's what I was looking at. I don't know if you could see. You can't see the frame indicator because my camera's over it. It's down. Or it's up. It's like, it's right there. So I was trying to zoom in. All right. Everyone's like, always show rulers. Very good. Okay. Very nice. Arsanios Marcos, I wish you could produce a full Adobe Premiere Pro course. All the information you have must be stored as a package somewhere. Please think about it. Yeah, you know, I do have those on both the CC YouTube and as well as mine. There's a series called How to Make Great Videos. And it's an 18-part series, 18 hours, fully chapterized, so you can skip. I've gone in and edited and added time codes in all the YouTube descriptions, so you don't have to listen to all of the narration that happens. So I invite you to check those out. Okay, so now we're ready to cut. I've been talking for 23 minutes. We haven't cut anything. Let's cut something, okay? And imagine, like I said, this isn't synchronized content. Let's say we were doing something about, you know, I don't know, conservation or animals or nature. All right, so here we go. So I'm gonna hit the space bar, and then you can of course click into each camera view here, or you can just use keyboard shortcuts. All right, so I'm just gonna use this. Now I'm not recording my voiceover, but you can just imagine, all right, what we'd be doing here. All right, so something like this. All right, so we start with the birds. You know, nature is something we all want to preserve. The beauty, the majesty of animals, I don't know, of endless skies and oceans, of lands we've only dreamt of scenery, of clouds, of lions licking their chops, goats bleeding. Okay? So brilliant. And when we go back to the timeline, what you now see labeled with the camera number, which is why it's nice to have those overlays on, is that if I now scrub back through this, now again, I didn't record that not brilliant voiceover, you can see that we just cut together this little multicam piece, right, across all this different content very quickly, very easily, all right? What's also really cool is that if we come in here, and let's say like, you know, I've got these 3 shots of kind of, maybe I wanted something else here. I didn't want this one, or I didn't want this one. I can right click here and go into multi-camera. And then I have the option here to swap the camera out. So let's say, okay, I don't want that shot. I actually wanted shot number 3, camera 3, it changes that to camera 3. Or I can say, no, I want this to be camera 1. Switch out that shot to camera 1. Doesn't change the edit, doesn't change the duration, doesn't change anything but that camera in that particular part of the edit. And then from there, you have all of your same editing tools, right? So if you're wanting to, whatever it is, to edit, to slip, to slide, to replace, to add transitions, whatever you're going to do, you just edit normally inside Premiere. Super easy, super simple. So this is a way to take non-synchronized or content B-roll that wasn't shot or meant to be in sync, but again, you're cutting multiple clips together against a voiceover or something like that. This is a great way to do it. Throw it in a timeline on individual tracks, right-click Nest, right-click Multi-Camera Enable, turn on your multicam viewer, create proxies if your machine can't handle it. Also, by the way, if this is 3 clips of 1080p, on most systems today, you should be totally fine. If it's 9 clips of mixed media, mixed frame rate, mixed format, mixed aspect ratio, probably going to want to do proxies. Okay? But it's that simple. All right? So now that we've done that, let's now take it sort of a step further where we're going to cut and work with content that was shot simultaneously and also synchronized with secondary audio. Okay? Let me just check our comments here. I wanted Jason to bleat. Yeah. That costs extra, Wade. All right. So let's go into this folder here. Now, as you may recall, I talked a couple weeks ago. By the way, just on another side note, I told you last weekend I got to see the worldwide premiere of the Get Back rooftop performance. The Beatles' Get Back rooftop performance film that was brought into IMAX on the 53rd anniversary of that very rooftop concert that the Beatles did at 3 Savile Row in London. It was phenomenal. It was live, which I didn't know going into it. It was a live worldwide broadcast at like 80 IMAX theaters. I think most of them were US based. I know there was one in London because they were broadcasting live from there where they were zooming in Peter Jackson from New Zealand. So it was so freaking cool. It was amazing. Also, I would add, and they did a totally new mix for IMAX of the rooftop concert, which was neat. I've only seen about 4 IMAX films, I think, in my life. Everest, I think, was the first one. If anyone's seen Everest, it's amazing. Sonically, it was this whole big deal about the Dolby Atmos mix and everything. I'm still just not impressed. I'm just not. It's just, it just isn't. It really isn't. I don't know what else to say. But, it sounded great. But this whole there's 1,000 speakers in here and we did all this. Man. No. Nope. So, but check it out. By the way, I heard it's coming back for 3 days, I think mid-February. If you haven't seen it, if you want to see something cool, if you want to feel it, I highly recommend it. All right. So in the archives, I found some content from this episode from my still yet to be released, likely to never be released, children's music show, Just Play Music. And this is some content from episode 4, which was around musical articulations. And you can see here, man, 11 years. This is what 11 years does. Let's see if I can make the same face. All right. I thought I had actually assembled this lesson. Evidently I hadn't, or I didn't have those archives. It was shot with 6 cameras. I could only seem to find 3 of them. So we're going to be working with 3. And on each of these, if I just kind of play from the source here. Right. By the way, back then, I didn't even have a proper clapboard. So how goofy. First of all, you can't even see the clap really, but I was using this little iPad app. Mark. With this teeny tiny little... by the way, I also did audio slates on the piano, so I wasn't relying on that for slate. That was more just to mark the content, just to have, you know, something where you could see what it was in advance. So there's 3 cameras here. All right. So we have that. We have, so that's the camera that's on me, face cam. Here's and that was locked down. Here's the moving real-time follow along as I play cam. And then we had a mounted camera, I believe, mounted on the piano. Wow, this one's going to need some work. This was, I think this was an old Sony flip cam. So this one already, I mean, this just needs some love, right? This one it's so dark, but we won't worry about that for right now. So we have all of this basically flow from one to the other. This also looks like it's out of sync. It's 720p and it's from a 15-year-old consumer video camera. We'll worry about that after. But while we have all of the live audio in the room, as you have known, I've heard me talk about, this was also, of course, multi-track audio recorded. So the piano is mic'd, I'm mic'd, the room is mic'd. So there's that component that we also want to synchronize. Now, I haven't done this with this content, so we're going to see what happens. Hopefully it syncs all of this. If not, I'll show you another way to do it. All right. So to do that, I had to, of course, go to Audition and find the articulation multitracks, which amazingly I had and had already sort of stacked together and put together. And very simply, so for this particular episode, again, this was all live. It was all captured live. Every episode was performed live. And in this case, this particular part of the episode was about 7 minutes and 45 seconds. Okay, and then there were musical performances, and then there was a part 2. We're just looking at part 1 here. We got the piano separated left and right on individual tracks. I'm not sure why I did it that way. We have my AKG vocal mic, and then I also had a lav on, right? So pretty common, have some kind of freestanding mic or boom mic, and then also just a lav just in case. So what we need to do is we need to take this content here and send this over to Premiere Pro. So just take a quick listen here. I want to make sure I'm in the right stuff. So this is articulation content, scene 2, take 1. Articulation content, scene 2, take 1. Scene 2. Mark. There's the piano slate. And then I get into some piano playing here. Let's see what this sounds like. Auto typically would sound like something like this. Okay, you're hearing that in mono, unfortunately, right now. Sounds really beautiful in stereo. Okay, so this is essentially rough mixed. This will be good for synchronization purposes. So I can come over here. Let's do this first. I'm not going to insert it into a track. I can't remember if it lets me. Well, let's just see. So I'm going to mix this down directly into Premiere. There's a couple ways to do it. Now, we haven't created the session yet, and I want to sync everything together simultaneously. So I'm doing this slightly backwards, but in this case, I just want to mix down and export this mix to Premiere, just to send it over there. This is just preventing one extra step of file import on the Premiere side. Beyond that, there's no reason to do it this way because I haven't created the sequence yet, but let's do it. All right, so articulation content, okay, it's 48K. Now, do I want to export each track as a stem, or do I just want sort of a compiled mix down that I can use in Premiere for cutting this together? That's ultimately what I want. Now, something that I'll show you, whether you create stems or mono, stereo, or 5.1, once that file lives in Premiere Pro, you can then right-click, edit in Audition, and access the multi-track stems at any point in time. So even if we just create this rough mix stereo for now, which is ultimately what you're going to want, right, when you export, if I right-click on that audio later, which I will do because we want to change something, it'll take me back to the multi-track. I can also edit just the stereo mix, but it's tagged, it's metadata flagged that this came from this session. So it already knows, which is super cool, all right? So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to export a stereo file of this. All right, give it a second to do that. bliss. Ain't we fancy? David, is there a way of automating multicam views to change according to the audio channels? Automating multicam views to change. So yes, okay, hold on one second here. So note when I back in Audition here, it's already done. It's asking if I want to copy this to the active sequence. I don't. So if I cancel, it should still hopefully be in this folder here because I don't need to add it to this sequence. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's cancel that. I'm perfect. There it is. All right. Now, if we were in the correct sequence, I could say, yes, add it to track 1, and it would place it in there automatically for us. All right. But because I'm wanting to sync all of this together simultaneously, it's done it this way. All right. So now at this point, let's go ahead and take those 3 videos and that stereo mix, because I am assuming that this is part 2. Let's hope I didn't screw that up. Oh, actually, wait, before we even do that, back up for a second. Let's make proxies. Now, again, this is 1080p content, with the exception of that one clip. 23976, although this one here looks like it's 30. I don't know so much about this one. This one might be, this may or may not. That flip cam was notoriously out of sync, so I'm not going to worry so much about that. But let's make proxies of this stuff first, just so I can show you the process, okay? So same thing. I'm going to select the 3 videos, proxy, create proxy. All right? QuickTime, low-res proxy. Again, if I had an ingest preset I wanted to use instead, I could do that. Next to original media, let's click OK. All right. Yes. And if we click over to Media Encoder, you can see that it's already doing its thing, right? So again, what's nice about this is that this is all happening in the background. So back over in Premiere, let's go crazy. Let's give it a shot. Let's get nuts. We're going to right click on here, and I'm going to have to zoom in because my head is blocking it. We're going to create a multi-camera source sequence from that content. Now, it doesn't matter that the proxies are being generated in the background, because when they're ready, they'll be ready. You don't have to do anything. You just have to enable them with that button that we showed you before. So we're going to create the multicam source sequence. I will call this articulation MC. All right. Now you'll note, of course, that you have lots of different synchronization options here. In, out, time code, sound time code. That's new. I don't remember that being in there. And then audio. So this is what we're going to use, right? So we're synchronizing via audio itself. We don't have any linear time code burned into any of these files or anything. Okay, sequence preset. It's going to use defaults here. Automatic. Move source clips to a processed bin. Okay. Sequence settings based on camera 1. Ooh, that could be interesting. Hold on, I'm going to get to your question too about switching views with the audio. I haven't forgotten. And then audio channel preset, automatic. You can see what you have here. I'm just going to select stereo just so it does that. And then you have the option here to enumerate the cameras, use track names, or use clip names. Again, we can just go with the defaults for right now. Hoping these are all going to synchronize. Let's click OK. It begins processing. And it did it. And we didn't get any errors. So that tells me we're probably looking pretty good. We are probably looking pretty good. Okay? I like it. So let's go ahead and do this. So here is our sequence. All right. We've already got our proxies enabled. Let's toggle the multicam viewer. All right. And now as we scrub through all of this, you can see that it's seems to have been synchronized, right? And actually, even that camera, which is super dark, damn you. All right, looks okay. All looking good. All right, so let's, we're not gonna worry about color for right now. Let's just see, let's start on this camera here. See how this looks. Oh, is there a little pull out there? Let's check that out. Well, once again, we find ourselves at the piano, and I'm here really... Okay, wow, everything seems to be moving slowly. What's going on there? Staccato and legato. Staccato. All right, let's drop some more frames, because for whatever reason, it's not doing it. Now, it might still be generating my proxies. Let me see what's going on back here. Okay, it just finished. Okay, so these should all be done now. So here is without. All right, it's taking a second here. That's without, and that's with. Now, you're not going to be able to see this on stream probably, but if you pay attention just to the pixels in my eyes, they get a little softer, right, with the low-res proxy. They get a little sharper when we're back to our native footage, okay? And I'm at 1/8 res. Actually, I'm surprised it's giving me a 1/8 selection here. Articulations are really nothing more than performance techniques that allow you to change or transition between notes or a series of different... Okay. What is happening? No. Okay. So, again, now that we have this in here, and it's scrubbing nicely, I don't know why it's not playing back quite so well. Played forte or staccato played piano. So you can mix these different articulations with different dynamic articulations to really create something very cool. It's playing everything really super slow. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to save real fast and just come back to this and see if that's going to improve, because 3 cameras should not be causing an issue. Shouldn't. Let's see. Percussive. Now, you can have staccato played forte or staccato played piano. So you can mix these different articulations with different dynamic articulations to really create something very cool. All right, that's playing nicely. Let's go back here. In this case, I'm going to there we go. Touch upon some slight classical styles here, and this really highlights kind of what staccato typically would sound like. Something like this. All right, super cool. Okay. So again, at this point now, we have the ability here to cut this across these different cameras with the synchronized audio, right? So we're actually hearing the multi-tracked audio, not the camera audio. Now, to our friend who was just asking, is there a way for me to, as I'm cutting between the different cameras, to hear the audio from those different cameras? That's what this function does here. Multi-camera audio follows video. So if you have something like, again, sort of Zoom style, where you want the audio from each of those individual cameras to come through versus a composite audio or secondary capture of everything, that's the option you're going to choose. All right. That was a great way to kind of segue into that. Perfect. Okay. All right. Just looking in the comments here. What's up, Karen? How are you? Julia, how are you? Z by HP. Sam, yeah, it looks like we're back in business now. I don't know what was going on there. Sometimes just quitting and coming back. You know, I was making the proxies. This. Okay. So that's looking good. All right. So what I want to do now is let's talk a little bit about some of the options here visually for changing the thumbnails or the poster frames of your video content. All right, now this is something that, again, recently got added, and you can do this via a keyboard shortcut. Now this is super cool, super useful, and it's really just because a lot of times, you know, the frame that you're seeing is the first frame of the video. So that may not be really representative of what you want the actual video to be. For instance, on this particular clip, the first frame is, you know, is this elephant obstructed. Okay, that's the actual first frame of that video. I've since changed it, however, to be this. And you can do that via a keyboard shortcut in the keyboard shortcut menu. So in the keyboard shortcut menu, which you can find on the Mac, under Premiere Pro keyboard shortcuts, I believe on the PC, it's under the edit menu here. If you come in here and you type move poster frame, you'll see that there are two new options here. Move poster frame 10 frames back, move poster frame 10 frames forward. So this is particularly useful, again, if you're trying to showcase just a different frame in view for your content. This is great for multicam, all right, for a multicam sequence. Now in this case, it's taking camera 1. It's still doing that. Not much change there. But for something like this sheep bleeding, I'm going to select this, all right? And I set up shortcut keys Shift Command N and B. So I'm Shift Commanding N going forward. Like there's a nice smiley goat. By the way, let's also make this bigger, extra large. All right. Command N, Command Shift N. I can find exactly the poster frame I want. And that's it. Okay. Click away. There it is. Okay. I don't like the mouth open, bleeding goat. Click back in here. Let's go back in time. Command Shift B. I think there's is there a scene where he's looking to the side? I'm going 10 frames at a time here. Yeah, like that. Okay. That's now my new poster frame. Click away. That's my poster frame. All right. So that's done really simply with keyboard shortcuts. All right. Move poster. Now I get asked all the time, how do we set them? By the way, these are not set by default. I set them. So to set your shortcut, what you want to do is click into the shortcut field. Now this is showing you what I currently selected. So what you can do, once you have that field selected, you can hold down a series of keys. So let's do Shift Command, for instance, and you'll see like 1 through 0. None of these at the top are being used. I've assigned these to N and B, right? But it can be whatever you want. So you can change those accordingly. All right, but that's how you do it. You click into the field, you then make adjustments on the keyboard. You go, you know what? I actually want move poster frames 10 back instead of B. I want it to be Shift Command, comma, all right, or whatever, J. I can do that, okay? And in this case, we would delete that. Shift Command J. Now I just assigned it. Delete that. Click in there again, Shift Command B. Now it's B. Okay? So this is a super useful keyboard shortcut to adjust the poster frame of your videos. By the way, you can only adjust the poster frame in either freeform view or in icon view. Okay? Which makes sense. You're not going to be adjusting poster frames in list view. All right? So you can do that from here. But I love this, like right away. Like just the fact that I'm seeing the sheep right there, that's so cool. And I think this also works, I think it works on sequences too, right, Kevin? I know you're in there. Let's see. So if I click on this sequence, yeah. So if I want to adjust the sequence poster frame, I want it to be the coastal wetland here instead. Now I've just changed the poster frame of that sequence. Super cool. All right. Again, I could come in here and try and find where that lion is. I got to go way ahead. Licking his lips. Now that's the poster frame. All right. Come in here. Let's make it, whoops, bigger. Oh, whoops, I just changed my view. Sorry about that. And there it is. All right. Redid the poster frame right there. So that's like a small thing, but that's one of those things that many users have been asking for a while. Kind of hard to believe we didn't have it, that option so easily, readily available sooner, but it's wonderful. This is a great addition, right? That's a great shot too. I wish I'd shot that. You can also capture some of my wildlife content available on Adobe Stock, shot at Sabi Sabi in Africa many moons ago. Paul from Peru, how are you? Okay. What was that, Kevin? Yeah, I was asking. I said I think I was asking if you can change. I did it. Yeah, if you can change the poster frame of a sequence, and I just did it. So yeah. All right. Cut video to the bleat. Dad jokes aplenty. Marius from Lithuania, how are you? By the way, Z by HP, that does not go unappreciated. Just so you know. Not knocking dad jokes. I make them myself all the time. Bill Costello, I always have the same problem in multicam you just had. Slow down or out of... Yeah, you know, and so it's playing fine now. If we play it back, it should be, right? So you can mix these different articulations with different dynamic articulations to really create something very cool. In this case, I'm going to touch upon some slight classical styles here, and this really highlights kind of what staccato typically would sound like. Something like this. Right? So nothing is sustained for very long. Perfect sync now. So it was just hung up momentarily. Save, came back in. It's working fine. All right. Let's see what else we got here. The slowdown build. Yeah. So like I said, because and this is something which we've seen. I was building a bunch of proxies before the stream, so just having Meeting Coder do all of that in the background and working in the project, yeah, it got a little stuck. Save, come back. It was all there. Now it's playing nicely in real time. All right. Yes, a Daily Dad Jokes podcast on Spotify, right? All right. Meh. Did I give you a bleep? Not even sure. Cody Bear, what's up? Okay. All right. So that is essentially the magic of multicam. It's easy, right? You can do it with camera footage and content that is synchronized. You can do it with camera footage and content that isn't synchronized. Whether the footage is related or not, drop it into a timeline, select it all, right-click, control-click, nest, right-click, control-click, multicam enable, toggle the multicam viewer button. If you want to be able to see the cameras numerically, you can turn on those overlays, which can also be found in that wrench menu, and you just start cutting. Click on the screen, use your keyboard, works nicely. If you've got secondary audio, it works wonderfully. Oh, by the way, I did want to point this out too, and this is just a testament to how well I legit believe our algorithm works for synchronization. So again, this is our own. Now, a lot of people use things like, or have used Pluralize and some of those out there, and they're great. I mean, Pluralize is amazing. Pluralize in particular is really good at synchronizing stuff where the audio is just, I mean, it's good at good audio, but where the audio is really terrible, I've seen Pluralize do some amazing stuff, especially if it's like a really big project. Ours works well there too, but what I also like about ours is that it works even when amplitudes are very different. So I just want to show this to you here. So in this case, I'm going to make a couple new sequences just so that you can visually see and hear. So when we captured all of these, we're almost out of time. All right. When we captured these things here, so here's my, again, this is the camera audio. You'll hear it's all echoey. So you can mix these different articulations with different dynamic articulations to really create something very cool. Okay, so that's actually obviously the camera audio in the room, right? By the way, remind everyone again that I shot this all on white. There was no green screen because I despise green screen. And I still love the look of that with the angles of the piano. It's so cool. Okay, but that audio is hot. Should be very easy to synchronize to, right? This camera, I mean, you can see it's really quiet, like significantly quiet. Oh, whoops, what am I doing? I mean, it's there, but it's really, really quiet. And if we were to, let's just edit this clip in Audition, just to kind of, let's do an amplitude. Yeah, I mean, look at this. It's like at -24. So what I'm constantly impressed with, I mean, and the dialogue itself, yeah, look at that. Good guess there. -24. The dialogue is barely audible, but we still synced it without issue. Now, of course, in Premiere, what you can also do is we can come over here, audio gain. Remember, we're just using this for sync purposes, so I can say normalize the max to -2 just to amplify the camera audio, right? But we didn't even have to do that. And that's kind of the point, is that it just works really, really well. Chops. It just works really well. And, you know, it's nice to have that natively without having to go to a plugin. So, my friends, that is all the time we have. If you've got additional questions, you can hit me up on YouTube, on Twitter. Thank you so much for watching. We've got the Daily Creative Challenge coming up next. So until next time, have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. And we'll see you again next week. Have a good one, everybody. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.